Currently, as it stands, David Moyes has 1 year left on his West Ham United contract, and unless anything drastic changes this summer, such as he gets a new deal, Moyes quits, Moyes gets sacked, next season will be his final season with the Hammers, and I absolutely hate it. It makes me nervous, it makes me worry. I think it's a very, very dangerous thing. And it's not specific to David Moyes entering the final 12 months of his contract. That's not the case. It's that our manager is entering the final season at the football club. I just think it's a very dangerous thing. Now, there is some situations where that worry isn't applicable. So, for example, if David Moyes was to win the Conference League and announce that next season is his final season as a football manager, he is retiring, I think that's a completely different scenario. But at present, that's not what we're dealing with. We are dealing with our manager entering the last year of his contract. And I think it's dangerous. We'll get onto that in a minute. But before we do, and it's a big if, and hopefully we do, and do you know something? I think we will. But if we win the Conference League in Prague on Wednesday night, I think David Moyes deserves a new contract this summer. Now, let me make myself loud and clear here with this disclaimer. I hate doing these bloody disclaimers in videos, but I promise you it's justified. And even though this is the biggest disclaimer I've ever done in a video, if you go in the comments underneath, there will be one person who just ignores this next bit. What I think David Moyes deserves, a new contract should we win the Conference League. And what I want to see happen, David Moyes to walk away after winning the Conference League, that would be my dream situation here, are two separate things. I can separate what I think Moyes deserves and what I want to see happen. I find it very easy. And there's a third thing here, which is what I predict to happen. It's three different things. Now, we're actually going to dismiss two of those, and all we're going to discuss today is what I think David Moyes deserves. And that is a new contract should we win the Conference League. Anyway, disclaimer over and done with. I promise you, check the comments. There will be one village that's lost its idiot that's saying, I can't believe you want Moyes to get a new contract. I cannot make it clearer. That is not what I'm saying. It's what he would deserve. Now, that requires quite a cold, emotionless, black and white look at what David Moyes has achieved at West Ham United. And that's what we're going to do today. Because we often get told that football is a results-based business. And to some extent, it is. If a manager goes 5 defeats in a row, he becomes under pressure, regardless of who he is, bar a handful, obviously, of the elite managers. Five defeats, and before you know it, the back pages are suggesting that you have lost the dressing room. That old cliche and myth gets trotted out first, despite there being no evidence to suggest you have lost the dressing room. It's the first thing that gets attributed to the manager because he's lost 5 games in a row. That is the first thing that comes up. But it is a results-based business. At the end of the day, the 3 teams with the least points in the league get relegated. Results-based. So let's take a look at the results that David Moyes has achieved at West Ham in 3.5 years. Well, his first half of season, he came back, took over from Pellegrini. He had one job, keep West Ham in the Premier League, and he did it. Relatively comfortable. Now, I would argue it wasn't the most difficult job in the world. I think we had a better squad than those teams around us. Obviously, in January, we invested in Souček and Bowen as well, so he got backed in the transfer window. But I'm trying to take a cold look at this. He got told to stay in the Premier League. He kept us in the Premier League. Job done. Let's move on to next season. His first full season as West Ham manager, we finished 6th. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. I think even the most optimistic West Ham fan at the start of that season, bear in mind we just survived relegation, I don't think they would have been predicting us to finish in the top 6 of the Premier League, but we did. We finished 6th. Fantastic. Well done. Last season, we finished 7th. We qualified for European football again. Now, this is where you have to be cold. I know what the counter argument here is. The football wasn't great. The results perhaps wasn't great. But we finished 7th and we got to Europa League semi-final. On paper, that is a really good season for West Ham. That's another good season for David Moyes at West Ham United. Now, this season, the one that's just finished up, we finished 14th. Again, step back and look at it cold. 14th. Bottom of the mid-table part of the Premier League. It's not the worst in the world, especially when you consider 3 teams that got relegated, one of them being Leicester City. None of them were the promoted sides. It doesn't happen very often when all 3 promoted sides stay in the Premier League, but this season they did. 3 teams went down. We finished 14th. It's not the worst result in the world, 14th, but we're also in a European final. But might I just add, this is hypothetical that we win the Conference League. So we now won the Conference League, finished 14th and won the Conference League. I find it hard to say that is not a good season for West Ham United. I really, really do. Now, I guess this depends on your opinion of the Conference League as a competition. But I've been a fan of it even last season when Leicester were in it. I liked it. I liked the idea of it. As soon as we qualified, I thought, we're going to win this. I want to win this. It's a really good tournament for us. So let's quickly recap. We avoided relegation, finished 6th, finished 7th, finished mid-table, and won a European trophy. As a CV, I think that's fantastic. I think David Moyes has done a tremendous job when you look at it from that angle. Now there is the other angle, and this is where we'll do it later on in a completely different video, but I'm just applying context for this video, which is I think he would deserve a new deal. The football, etc, etc, we'll deal with that. But just to reiterate, I don't want him to get a new contract. I think he would deserve one. But my biggest issue with this summer is I hate managers with a year to go on their contract. I think it's a very dangerous thing. Now, West Ham are already guilty of planning short term anyway. It always feels like we've done that. Whether it be David Sullivan, whether it be transfers, whether it be with managers, it's always felt a little bit, make sure we're in the Premier League in May. And that's it. There's no 3-year plan or 5-year plan. We don't have one. We don't. When Sullivan and Gold bought the club, they presented a 10-point plan. We've not had anything since. It stopped. I think there was an updated version of it when we moved into the London Stadium in 2016. But that's it. We've not had another one. There isn't one. It isn't like, well, we've got all this in place, and what that means is that in 3 years' time, we're going to be in the top 10 in the Premier League because of everything that we're going to do. And we're going to do it correctly. The results are inevitable. We don't have that. It's just, let's just get through to May. It's always felt short term. Right now, David Moyes will be planning for next season and next season only, and I do not blame him in the slightest. Why should Moyes, this summer, if Declan Rice leaves, and this is what makes me I'm really nervous for this transfer window. Replacing Rice is impossible. I don't think you can do it. In terms of one player, you cannot just bring in one player to fill the shoes of Declan Rice. Doesn't happen, doesn't exist. So the next best thing is to get somebody that's bloody good, that can do the majority of what Declan Rice did, but also improve elsewhere in your starting 11. Use the money wisely, so while your defensive midfield role, if you like, isn't quite as good, but you're improving maybe 2 positions off the back of it as well. So as a squad, you've got better. That's the best thing that we can do. So the pressure's on David Moyes and Rob Newman at this point to figure that out. And a lot of the rumours are suggesting it's James Ward-Prowse, possibly Palhinha, Fulham. And I quite believe it. Moyes has been asked a couple of weeks ago about buying domestically in the transfer window, and he hinted that is what we're going to do. He basically said we're not going to rule anything out, but yeah, kind of thing, we are looking domestically as well. Both age profiles are not great. 28 years of age, you're buying them for the most expensive they'll ever be in their career. Probably giving them the biggest wages and the biggest contract they'll ever have in their career as well. There's no resale value there. You basically, say you paid 40 million each for them, and I appreciate this is a hypothetical situation, but just bear with me. You'll get my point. You're basically just wiping your hands of 80 million, saying, there you go, we'll buy these two. For the next couple of seasons, they'll be really good. Then after that, they're probably going to need to start to be phased out, or we're going to have to take a look at replacing them in a 2-3 seasons' time. 80 million, down the Swanee, just like that. But why should Moyes not do that? Why should Moyes care about what happens in the 2024-25 season? He shouldn't. Moyes has got one job. Next season, hopefully, do well in the Europa League, try win another trophy and keep West Ham away from relegation. That'll be what his ambition is next season. And why shouldn't it be? Why shouldn't he look after himself? And I know as West Ham fans, we're going to say, well, as manager, it's his duty to prepare for the future. Of course it is. But he won't do it. Why should he? For the next manager along to benefit, he's not going to do it. It doesn't happen in football. When have we ever seen a manager come in, and not just West Ham, almost selflessly prepare for 3 seasons' time knowing they're not going to be there? It doesn't. It's a very selfish thing. We need to get these players in so I can do this and the next guy can clean up after me. Don't care. And that's the way football's gone, and that's happened at West Ham. It always has. Pellegrini spent a load of money. Bilic was there. Moyes had to work with his squad. Pellegrini came in, spent a load of money. Moyes just had to work with a bit of that. We've still got a player from Sam Allardyce's reign at the football club. Sam Allardyce's reign is still here. That's how bad this squad's been managed in some regards. But anyway, This summer, we've got a huge transfer window, and I just worry that a manager with just 1 year left is only going to have one focus the next 12 months. And there's other situations as well that comes off the back of this. Player contracts. We've had some big decisions to make this last month. Fabianski, Ogbonna, Creswell, Soufal. Again, if it comes down to the manager, why would he not be thinking about next season only? Why would he care? Well, maybe we could do with a younger centre, replace Ogbonna with a younger. Nah, bugger it. I'll have Ogbonna, thank you very much. Why should he worry about the wages that these players are on? And then there's the opposite end of it, which is the youngsters. Now, the under-18s have done miraculous this season. I think there's maybe 2, 3 at the most ready for appearances in the first team. One standout in particular, Mubama. If we don't have European football next season, I struggle to see where he'll get minutes. I really do. And when I say minutes, I mean even just on the bench. We'll have Ings, we'll have Antonio, and we'll possibly have 8 other striker. You know, a lot of the boys this season that we've just finished relied on the Conference League. Lanzini, Ogbonna's rehabilitation, all that wouldn't have really been possible without the group stage of the Conference League. The European minutes have become important almost in this squad. Without that next season, I would argue we've got a squad that's too big for just Premier League football. I do believe that. I think it's too big. I don't think you need 3 strikers all on 80 grand plus a week. Do you need Cornet in the squad? Also, Lanzini would be going. Do we need to replace him if we've not got European football? I would argue that we don't really. But the progression of youngsters, why should boys play Mubama? Why should he? Because he might be better than what we've got, but why should he take that risk? You've got to allow the youngsters to go in and make mistakes. You have to. When you play youngsters, you've got to allow them to learn through error. Moyes doesn't have the patience for that. He needs results just like this. He's only got 12 months on his contract. He's not fussed about Mubama in 3 seasons' time. He's not going to be here. It'll be someone else that benefits from it. And I just worry. I hate managers going into the final 12 months of his contract. This season, the biggest criticism I personally have over David Moyes, and I know a lot of people do as well, is the football. It's not been the most entertaining, has it? And that's putting it lightly. It's been pretty dire to watch. It's not been exciting. And we've heard from Antonio, we've heard from Noble, Moyes, Rice. There's so many people have said that we try to make a transition at the start of the season that you can't really deny it anymore. I think you have to accept that was the intention. Clearly it hasn't worked. They've all said the same thing. It's not worked. We've reverted back. We ain't going to see that attempt again. We're not going to see a new way of playing next season. He tried it. It failed. He's got a year left on his contract. There's only one thing we're going to see next season, and that is David Moyes' football. What we've seen in the last month. Now it's effective. It's worked. It's kept us up. In European football it's worked. It's got us to a final. But it's not always enjoyable. The last 18 months of football has not been fun to watch. I think the next 12 months of football might follow on from that 18. I would argue it's only going to get worse because we won't have Declan Rice. And Rice is a huge part of the way we play. Those driving runs, the breaking up play, how intelligent he is protecting that back four. When we played Leicester, I felt like I was watching West Ham without Declan Rice. Rice was there physically, but he was not imposing himself on the game like he usually would. Understandably so, and when we did the player ratings, myself and Gonzo said, I did not want Declan Rice to get a 9 out of 10. If he did, that means he would have been gallivanting around the pitch, going into tackles. I didn't want that. I think I gave him a 5 out of 10 for his performance against Leicester. Good. That's what I wanted. Much shackles on Declan. Whoa, I'm backing out of all this. But what we did see against Leicester was Declan Rice playing like other centre midfielders might play, without those runs, without those interceptions and stuff. And I hated it. It terrifies me, actually. You've got to have confidence in us replacing him. I do not at this point. I do not have confidence in us. And I think this summer is pivotal for us. And I just think with a manager with a year to go on his contract, he's only got one thing on his mind, and that is next season. The season after, etc., etc., it doesn't happen. So when I see people, and I include myself, I'm guilty of this. I would love Romeo Lavia at West Ham. It's a bit ambitious, but you know something, I've not seen him linked to Man City or anything, so I think there's a possibility. But do I have hope? Not really, because I think it would require a punt of some extent. I think it's a low risk one, but I think the manager would prefer to go for James Ward-Prowse over if you offered him Lavia and Ward-Prowse for the same price, same contract, 4-year deal, 80 grand a week, 40 million, let's just say that, which one do you want? He's going for Ward-Prowse every day of the week. Whereas I and a lot of you out there would say, no, we'll have the younger one, please, because long term, that's the right thing to do. Why should Moyes care about the long term? This is my point I'm probably badly making. I just hate it so much. And then we've got this talk of the director of football coming in this summer. And do you know something? I think it would be a bloody car crash. If a director of football arrived at West Ham tomorrow and took over the transfers immediately and he started bringing in players, he might go for Romeo Lavia. There's one thing we've seen, well there's many, but one of the things we've seen from David Moyes, if he don't like a player, he won't play them. We know that. Vlasic, Kral. There's plenty of other examples out there as well. I would argue Saïd Benrahma when Moyes first came in. Not anymore. He plays him now. Maxwell Cornet, I would argue to some extent. I would have expected him to have more game time under David Moyes. But Moyes isn't too keen on the player. Moyes will not play a player. We've seen it. And the last thing I think I would want to see next season is us having a manager who's reluctant to play some of the players that somebody else has brought into the club. Now, I think a director of football, like I said, it should be a fantastic thing for West Ham. I should get excited about someone coming in, having all this expertise, having all these contacts out there. But I don't, because we've got a manager, not a head coach. It's two completely different things. A director of football, you need a head coach on paper. But we don't. We have a manager who's a control freak. He wants his fingers over everything at the football club. And you know something? I completely get it. I'm not saying Moyes is wrong to be like that. I'm just saying that is the way Moyes is. And if we bring in a director of football, I think you're creating a situation that is probably unnecessary, but just makes me worry for next season that we'll have a manager who only cares about the next 38 games, and that's at the start of the season, almost up against a director of football who cares about the next 3-4 seasons at West Ham. Managers with 12 months to go in their contract, I think is very, very dangerous. I do not like it. But I'll stand by it. If we win the Conference League, I think David Moyes deserves a new contract. But I also stand by what I want. I do not want David Moyes to get a new contract. And I can't make that clearer, but I promise you, if you check the comments now, there'll be one person saying, I can't believe you want Moyes to get a new deal. Anyway, that's my little rant. I'm quite passionate about it, actually. Managers entering the last year of their contract. It just worries me. And that's without adding in the situation at West Ham, which is replacing Rice, the director of football and stuff. When you throw all that in as well, I promise you now, I am really, really nervous for this summer. The only thing that's stopping me worrying is that we've got a final to look forward to. But once we've played that, and if we've lost, I don't want to think about it, but if we win, for about a week at least, I'll have this high. I won't even think about the transfer window. But once that starts to fade and all the transfer rumours come back, that's when I'll start to worry again. This summer is crucial, because if I said to you right now, next season West Ham will get relegated, I bet you some of you will go, actually, yeah, I can see that. We get that wrong this summer, yeah. You can't say no. We've just been in a relegation battle up until about 2 games to go. You can't possibly say we will not be in a relegation battle next season. But on the other hand, if I said to you, next season we'll finish 9th in the Premier League and we'll reach the semi-finals of the Europa League, I think you could probably believe that too. You probably say, actually, yeah, I can see that happening. I think that's realistic. Next season could be anything. We could finish in the bottom 3. We could finish 8th in the Premier League. We might even win another trophy next season. Because the good thing with the Conference League, if we win it, the players will be hungry and the manager will be hungry. They'll want more. Once you've tasted success, the only thing you want is more success. It's a huge summer at West Ham and I'm bloody nervous. And a large part of that reason is because David Moyes only got 1 year left on his contract. Now I'm going to shut up and disappear. If you've enjoyed my ramblings, please do drop a like on the video. Subscribe if you're new to Hammers Chat. Catch up with you tomorrow.